Gentlemen, Valentine's Day is coming up. What are your plans? Do you even have any plans? You gonna take her out to some nice steakhouse, you know? You spend anywhere from $50 to $80 on a steak that's overcooked, under-seasoned, and just bad overall? How about instead, you listen to me and do what I'm gonna teach you to do today. It's gonna cost less, and it's gonna taste better, and more importantly, she's gonna love it. So today what we're going to be making on Cooking in College is a beef Wellington. This isn't one of those big ones that you see Gordon Ramsay making that serves 8 people. Okay, this is something you make for one other person. And you don't just make this for your friends, this is for somebody you care about, okay? So step 1, since it's Valentine's Day, you get your best knives, you roll them out, all pretty like that. You go, ooh, look at my knives, okay? So what you're going to want for the Wellington part, you're going to want some sort of filet mignon. This is super cheap actually. I got this at Walmart for $6, okay? So it's not expensive. You're gonna want some sort of Dijon mustard, prosciutto, just a couple eggs, puff pastry, some mushrooms. You can use any kind. Here I have a gourmet blend from Publix, but you know, buttons, anything like that. You're gonna want some rosemary and thyme, a couple shallots, and butter, and obviously salt and pepper. And then along with this, we're gonna serve it with a red wine sauce, okay? So here we have cooking wine. Cooking wine anyone can buy in the store, okay? Whether you're of age or underage. If you're over 21, I recommend using real wine. It'll taste so much better, but if you're underage, you can buy this cooking wine. Do not drink this. For the love of God, do not drink it. I'll say it again, do not drink this. It's horrible, okay? So you're gonna want your wine that you're gonna cook with, some beef stock, some black peppercorns, and some bay leaves, and we're also gonna be using some of this rosemary and thyme from over here and a couple of these shallots to go with it, okay? So let's get started. First thing you're gonna wanna do is preheat your oven to 450. So I've left this filet out for 30 minutes, bringing it up to room temperature. Okay, and patted it dry. We're just gonna salt it real quick. Now filet is a really thick cut of meat, so you're gonna wanna salt it pretty heavily. And make sure you get both sides. You're going to want to also make sure you get the sides of the meat. You just rub it around in any salt that fell off from earlier. Okay, and then we're going to hit it with some pepper. And same deal, make sure you get everywhere, okay? Okay, so now that we've got that seasoned, we're gonna take some olive oil and give it a light rub down with olive oil. And just rub that in with all the other salt and pepper on your plate. Okay, I'll wash my hands real quick. So what you're gonna want to do is over here, get a pan, either stainless steel or cast iron. Do not use a non-stick pan for this. You're gonna wanna get a little bit of a sear on the steak. So we're gonna get this preheated, okay? Don't put any oil in it. While we're waiting on that to preheat, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make something called a duxelle, okay? So this, you're gonna take out your mushrooms, okay? And this you can do by hand or you can do it in a food processor, okay? What you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna chop it up super fine, you know, almost to the point that's like a pate or something like that, okay? So I'm gonna put my mushrooms in here. I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna throw in a couple sprigs of this thyme and rosemary. And a clove of garlic. So we're gonna get this in here. And we're just gonna pulse it. Check it real quick. Okay, so it's starting to break up a little bit, but I want it to go a little bit longer. There we go. Okay, so this is the consistency that you're gonna want. It's super fine. It's almost like a paste. So we've got that all chopped up. We're gonna bring it over here. Take the blade out. And we're just gonna put this into a bowl for now. Okay, so we've got our mushroom mixture in the bowl here. We're gonna get this out of the way. Like I said, you can do this by hand, or you can do it in a food processor. It also works in a blender. It just doesn't work quite as well because of the less surface area. Okay, so now that our pan is heated up, we're gonna give this steak a really quick sear. You're not trying to cook the steak here, okay? All you're really trying to do is give it a little bit of color all over and introduce some roasty flavors to it. So 30 seconds tops to it. You want to make sure you also get all the sides. And you can use the side of the pan too if you need to. Okay, so we got that all steamed up. And what you're going to want to do while this is still hot is in a separate bowl, squirt out some of your Dijon mustard and take some sort of silicone brush or something and just give it a quick brush down all over. Okay, so now that you have this brushed down with your Dijon mustard, you're gonna put it in the refrigerator and let it cool. Now while that is cooling, you're gonna wipe the Dijon mustard off your hands. And in this same pan that you just seared your steak in, you're gonna add a little bit more olive oil to the pan this time. And you're gonna fry up this mushroom mixture. What we're trying to do here is get all the moisture out, because that moisture is gonna lead to sogginess when we start to actually bake this Wellington. So once we've got this all in here, you're just trying to fry it up a little bit and get some of that moisture out. I'm actually gonna turn this heat down to medium because I don't want this to burn. As you're cooking this, try and spread it out so you can maximize surface area, and that'll maximize your evaporation, how much liquid you lose. While that's frying, we're gonna add a little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. While you're doing this, if you had any little brown crusty bits form on the bottom of your pan from when you were searing the steak, you want to try and scrape those up too. Those are good flavor. So you can still see it kind of glistening. That's the moisture still in there. So that's how you know it's not done quite yet. Okay, so now that we're back, we're gonna start assembling the Wellington. So you're gonna get some plastic wrap. You're just gonna wanna roll this out here. You're gonna want a good sized piece. Okay, so what you're gonna wanna do first is take your prosciutto and you're gonna lay that out and shingle it. Okay. So real quick, this is what prosciutto looks like. It's a type of ham. It's super salty and super thin. So be careful when you're taking it out of the package because it can be kind of annoying. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay this first piece out here. I'm gonna take my second piece and shingle it over that. But what I mean by shingle is you're gonna lay it over it just a little bit so that the two overlap. You're gonna do that. It's gonna tear on you a lot, that's fine. Just work with what you can get. So what you're gonna do now is take this mushroom mixture that we just fried up and you're gonna spread it over the prosciutto and you're gonna wanna try and get it in an even layer across the whole thing. Okay, so now it's somewhere that I like it, you know, pretty even across the whole thing. We're gonna come back here and get our steak out. And you're gonna put it right in the middle there. Okay, so real quick. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna wrap it. So a normal Wellington, you would wrap it over and roll it up nice and tight, but because of this, the way it's shaped, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna grab my knife here real quick and cut this sheet down a little bit. We're gonna grab the corners of it, we're gonna bring them up together. You're gonna twist and pull this whole thing together in a nice little ball. The key with this is to be confident and get it nice and tight. And then we're gonna put that back in our refrigerator to cool. Okay, so now we're gonna get started on the red wine sauce while our meat chills. First thing you're gonna wanna do is dice up some shallots. Shallots are a cousin of the onion. They're a little bit sweeter, a little bit richer. They provide a different kind of texture when you eat them. So something I'm gonna teach you guys real quick, whenever you are dicing something like an onion or a tomato or any vegetable, quick trick you can do is down the middle, take your knife, don't go all the way through, come back, and then along the top, don't cut all the way through. Put some fine dices, or some fine little like slits down through there. And then you come back and instant dice. You don't want to waste any parts, so the little top that's left over, just give that a quick little dice up and it'll be fine. So we're going to do that to all three of these. So now we've got these all chopped up, we're going to give it one last quick little dice, so those bigger chunks. So we got all that done. Next thing you're going to want to do, you're going to chop up about 3 cloves of garlic. Quick little thing about garlic, when you're opening it up, make it easier, what you want to do is you want to smash it underneath your heel, just put your weight behind it, crush down on it, opens it up, makes it a lot easier to peel too, and it releases some of those oils. They'll taste amazing. We're just going to chop that up really quick. Make sure you cut off the ends. Those just taste really tough. And this one you're not going as fine. But crushing it up will help it a little bit. Okay, so now we got that garlic chopped up. What you're gonna wanna do is in a saucepan, like a tall saucepan like this, a little drizzle of olive oil. Say anywhere from medium high to medium heat. So what we're going to want to do here, we're going to want to sweat those out a little bit. That's not going to take very long. Just give it a good stir, let them heat up, and start to caramelize a little bit. Okay, so while those are sweating, they're almost done, we're going to add a cup of our cooking wine. We're going to add this in. Okay, now we're gonna add a cup of our beef stock. Here, I've got some nice bone and beef stock, but you can just use your generic low sodium, whatever, it works just fine. You don't want to use beef broth here, because beef broth is basically really watered down. It's more like a bunch of roasted beef boiled. Your stock is super reduced and heavily concentrated, so you get more of that beefy flavor than you would with just the stock. Broth is something you want to use for stuff like soups. So. Now we're going to add in our cup of beef stock. While we're here, I'm going to add in just a small handful of black peppercorns. And 2 bay leaves. Just put those right on top. Then obviously we're going to season it with salt and pepper. You turn the heat up to high and let that go. You're going to want it to reduce by about half. Okay, so when I say reduce, what that means is the liquid on the top is evaporating and all the flavors and everything are becoming more concentrated. And with this, since we're using cooking wine, it's also burning off some of that alcohol. So you don't want that alcohol taste in your sauce, because that just makes it even more bitter. It's not good in your sauce. So reducing is letting the steam come up, everything evaporate, then it goes down, but it becomes thicker. If your sauce is still kind of loose once it's reduced, you can add stuff like cornstarch or flour and help it thicken up a little. Another thing with your alcohol, if you're using cooking wine like we have here, you look on the bottle, it'll say 10% alcohol by volume, so you still need to reduce it even when you use cooking wine. You can hear it right now, it's starting to bubble up and sizzle and boil. That's what you want. You want it to stay simmering and boiling. Okay, so now we're about to wrap our meat up. But what I've done here is I have floured my surface. I've got my puff pastry out. You can see it's got these creases in it. I'm just gonna roll it out, make it a little bit bigger, something easier to work with. And here, we're gonna use this in a little bit. I have an egg wash. What this is just 2 eggs cracked in a bowl with a little bit of water. And we're gonna use this to help seal the puff pastry once we have it going. So now we're gonna take our meat out of the fridge where it's been chilling for the past however long it took you to do everything. We're gonna try our best to get this out without everything falling apart. It's a little difficult, you just gotta be confident, you know? The meat smells fierce, so just don't be scared. There we go. That's some ham right there. We're gonna put this in the middle of our puff pastry here. We're gonna do an egg wash all along the sides down here. So now we're going to take our second piece of puff pastry and get it out and just gently lay it over the top of the meat. Now what you're going to do, you're going to come here, you're going to tuck it in. Nice and snug in there. Once everybody's nice and snug, I'm gonna take this and cut it out. Pull that off. We're going to take our tray. We're going to line it with some parchment paper real quick. You try and get under your puff pastry here. Put it right down there in the middle. And real quick, you're gonna take a fork and you're gonna crimp all around the sides here. And this is kind of sealing all your pastry together. Okay. Now over the top, we're gonna add our egg wash again. Okay. And we're gonna hit it with just a little bit of salt across that top. Now we're gonna put it in the oven at 450, like I said at the beginning, for 20 minutes, okay? I'm gonna check it at about 10 probably, and just temp it and make sure it's good. You want this meat to be blushing, like around maybe like 130, 135 degrees, okay? And make sure you put it on either the middle or the lowest rack in your oven. So we're gonna let that go now for 20 minutes. I'll see you guys when it's done. So our sauce is reduced down pretty good. We're gonna pull it off heat. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in a couple tablespoons of butter while it's still hot and let that melt in there. Right here, it's about 2 tablespoons. We're just gonna stir that in until it melts. Everything gets nice and rich. You wanna make sure that you do this off heat, okay? So now that the butter's all melted in there, we're gonna put it through a mesh sieve and strain it out into a separate bowl. Something you want to also do while you're straining it, when you have all the solid or big pieces stuck in the strainer, stir them up a little bit because they still have a little bit of juice they're willing to give. Okay, that's all strained out. There is your red wine sauce. So it's been 20 minutes now, it's ready to go. We're going to take it out of the oven. And there you go. That looks amazing. Now we're gonna cut it open. You know, make sure you have a good bread knife for this because this is very crackly and it can tear apart super easily. So it's a little overdone, that's fine. Next time we'll just cook it for less and turn up the heat a little bit higher. But that's just something you learn with experience. Wellington's something that's really hard to do like perfectly. That's why you really only see it in super professional kitchens. But since this is a filet mignon, it's still gonna be super tender, still gonna be super moist. We get this on a plate, then we're gonna do a taste test with the red wine sauce. Okay, now we're gonna plate. Just put half of it on there. You're gonna take your red wine sauce and just drizzle it over the top. There's your Wellington with your red wine sauce. You can get a fork and knife, do a taste test real quick. Oh, hot. It tasted great. That red wine sauce really brings out the flavor of the meat. This is a great thing to make for any significant other. Or if you're like me and you're gonna be lonely on Valentine's Day. Again. I'll see you guys next week. Or actually in 2 weeks, my bad. So happy we're doing this.
When you're actually single on Valentine's Day.